queen for Psycho, and then of
first.
course she's in this movie with her daughter, who is also a scream queen. I think it's great to see the two of them in a film together because the acting is so good. You can't tell that they're mother and daughter in real life. Like you don't get a hint of that at all in the film.
Oh yeah, for sure. And see, here's the thing. Jamie Lee Curtis said that people always wanted to do like a mother-daughter thing with them. As far as I know, they didn't do that again or they didn't actually do it because they weren't in any scenes together in this one. Or not many anyway. They didn't do that until Halloween H2O, right?
Right, yeah, where they both worked at the school. She was Miss Tate, and then the other one was Miss, what was it, they called her Norma, which I thought was funny. That was obviously an ode to Psycho there. But, yeah, that's the next time I think that I remember them being in a film together. With
Kevin Williamson writing that one, you couldn't help but get those references. There's a shit ton of references to Halloween and the people who were involved in it here, and the people involved in this movie as well. So listen to some of the names, you'll catch a bunch. So anyway, the Centennial is also marked by ominous events, including the appearance of a glowing fog that spreads over land and sea. Well, in the first scene of the movie, it's the night before the town's celebration, and you've got these little kids, and they're all seated around a campfire on a beach, where you get this old man who's telling a ghost story, and this is old Mr. Mackin, who's played by John Houseman.
Yeah, another veteran character actor, and he's one of my favorites. We're talking about the same guy. I think it's the captain is telling the story around the campfire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just beautiful film. Oh, my wife says hi, Travis. She just happened to be moving through the room.
Hello.
Anyway,
the girls will say hi, but they're passed out dead, so they're done.
That's okay. We might get lucky and see all of them when we do our big excursion together out here at the Prop Museum, which is going to be a lot of fun. You need to go because they've added some Jason stuff. Kane Hodder's screen-used machete from Friday 7 is on display there now. So, yes.
For effects, that is my favorite Friday for effects,
Oh, absolutely. But anyway, back to that. But, yeah, this is Houseman was just a great choice. I really think that that's one of Carpenter's strengths, is he picks these actors who are very good, but he also goes against the grain because up until this point, Hal Holbrook hadn't really done anything horror-related. I think he had done Magnum Force, with, that's one of the Dirty Harry films where he was like the chief or whatever, and this is kind of casting him against what he normally played, and then, of course, he went back with him on Creepshow because he was married in the movie to Adrienne Barbeau's character, I believe.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah.
And she was a total bitch in that movie.
Yeah, she got what she deserved.
Yes, she did.
Anyway, but yeah, I think that's one of Carpenter's strengths. You have all this great similarity between The Fog and Halloween, and then you have this great cast, and it's got all the hallmarks of a classic John Carpenter style, and it's effective. And I think it's effective without putting too much in there to get you distracted. You focus on the story and the effects and the monsters. They all work together. There's not any disjointed feeling in this film.
Yeah, and they, of course, they're working with a limited budget. It's 1980. They don't have a big budget to work with. It's pretty typical of Carpenter films. So, you got this resident elderly fisherman telling his story, and the story is actually being told at the stroke of midnight, and it's kind of telling the story of the history of the town's formation, which is actually being discovered at that exact moment by the local priest, Father Malone, Hal Holbrook, when he finds the diary of his grandfather, who was also the town's priest. And so, you've got connections there already to whatever happened 100 years ago. So the diary, later on, you find out, there's a dark secret unknown to the current inhabitants, where in 1880, and this is just to kind of set it up for everybody, because it gets revealed as we go along, but 6 of the founders of Antonio Bay, including Malone's grandfather, deliberately sank and plundered the Elizabeth Dane, which, by the way, I hated that Elizabeth Dane angle in the remake. God, that pissed me off. A clipper ship that was owned by Blake. Not you, but a leper. He's a wealthy man with leprosy who wanted to establish a colony near Antonio Bay. And the 6 conspirators who were trying to basically steal the gold and get these. I mean, let's be honest with you. I get it. You don't want a fucking colony of lepers settling near you. I get it. You know, it doesn't make it okay, but I understand where they're coming from. But what do? It's the fucking Catholic Church, so they set a fire, let their ship crash, and steal their gold. Oh, the Catholic Church, they can't ever get anything right, can they?
You know what else is funny? You brought that up, the plundering of the Elizabeth Dane. I think it's funny that, or ironic rather, that in these films, the towns have dark secrets, and they're just as bad as the monsters. Okay, I'll give you an example. Elm Street, Springwood, what do? They want to get rid of somebody who was causing problems. What do? They burn him up. And then the sins of the parents are visited upon the children. Just like in this film, the sins of the ancestors of the founding fathers of the town are visited upon their descendants.
Well, the interesting thing, though, in this movie, though, is that, and the difference between this and Elm Street is the lepers didn't do anything to anybody. They were going to, pay an amount so they can live nearby. And basically, they're completely innocent in this whole thing until,
right.
What they've done after death. But, but it is true. The sins of the ancestors are visited upon, by their generations after. So, you've got, again, what happens is these founders of Antonia Bay, they sink this ship, which is a clipper ship owned by Blake. And again, he's wealthy, he's got leprosy, he's got an entire colony they're going to set up near Antonio Bay. And these 6 conspirators, they lit a fire on the beach, like near treacherous rocks, so that the clipper will kind of follow that, thinking it's like a lighthouse. And they thought it was a beacon of light for where they're supposed to go, and they crash into the rocks, and everybody aboard the boat perishes. And the 6 conspirators, obviously they wanted money, and they were also disgusted at the notion of having a leper colony nearby. I like where Father Malone is reading that part where the guy is talking about like that he has to weigh his revulsion of a leper colony living nearby versus what he's doing, the murder.
Yeah,
I just thought it was a good monologue, I guess.
There are a lot of moments like that are really good in this film. And that's another thing. A lot of the films that are in the horror, industry, in the horror genre that people watch, sometimes the acting's not all that great, sometimes the dialogue's not all that great. They're in it for the scares and the kills. This movie's not like that. This movie is a well-rounded project. I mean, it's got good actors, it's got a great story, fantastic plot, good dialogue. It's believable. I mean, you get sucked into that movie. How many times have you been out at night in a fog, out there, even if you're just drinking, sitting out there and watch a fog roll through, and you think about how creepy and eerie it is and what could be in the fog. You know?
It's really fucking cool to think about, too. Like the mist and the fog, these are the two for me. When I see them, when I see a fog or a London fog or whatever you want to call it, those are the two movies that I think of because you don't know what's in that fog. It doesn't ever scare me. I think it looks cool, but that's kind of part of horror for us. There's not too many things that scare us, but we think it's cool. And this is one of those things. So, yeah, I mean, it is synonymous with real life for sure, which adds to the enjoyment of the film for sure. So anyway, these they plunder the gold from the ship, and what they do is they found their church with the gold, which I find interesting. What a thing to use gold for, to found a church, but I realize it's the 1800s. It's not now. It's just a different time, although who's the dude in Texas that wouldn't let people in during the Houston flood?
Was it Osteen? Is that who it was?
Yeah, Joel Osteen. It just makes me think of shit like that. There's always money involved in churches, no matter what anybody says and what they think. Whatever your beliefs are, there's always money involved in churches. Jim Jones, that's all I'm saying. All I'm saying, Blake, they can be crooked many times. So, anyway, you've got this mysterious fog now that contains the vengeful ghost of Blake and the Clipper's crew, who've come back on the 100th anniversary of the shipwreck and the founding of the town to apparently take the lives of six people, which we get different ways that it tells us. Like, when, well, we'll get to there, but Adrienne Barbeau's kid in the movie pulls out a piece of wood that originally says Elizabeth Dane, and then it changes to 6 must die, which is hard to fucking read unless you're paying close attention, by the way. But we'll get there. So anyway, this same night, as, you know, all this shit's going on, you've got 3 local fishermen, Al Williams, Tommy Wallace, sounds familiar, Tommy Lee Wallace, and Dick Baxter.
Yeah.
Dick Baxter's come back from Halloween. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Dick Baxter, who did she try to hook him up with? Dick Baxter, and she said she would rather go with Ben Tramer. Isn't that right?
I think so. And isn't the character Nick Castle?
Yes, very good.
It's also an
Tom
ode
Atkins
to
Nick Castle.
Yeah, it's also an ode to Halloween. I love it, man.
Yep, we get a lot of throwbacks, that's for sure. So, all these guys, one of which is, by the way, Buck Flower, who's in a shit ton of things, including They Live, Village of the Damned, Wishmaster. I could go on and on. I think he's in Gremlins, for Christ's sake. The dude's in everything. And he's passed away, unfortunately, so I'll never get to meet him, which is sad. Anyway, so they're out on the on their boat, and Adrienne Barbeau, she runs a radio station, and she's on the air, and she's like, "This is Stevie Wayne, and this is whatever the fuck they call it, WKAD," and you know, she's doing this sexy voice, and she's talking about this fog rolling in, and these guys on the boat are like, "There's no fog." This is Buck Flower. "There's no fog." "Oh, there's a fog." Did you like that part, Blake? Or he's just like, "There's no fog. She's crazy." "Oh, there's a fog." The dialogue there was goofy. So, just prior to these guys' deaths, Al and Tommy are standing on the deck of the boat, and they can kind of see a ghostly-looking ship pulling alongside theirs through the dense, but of course glowing fog. And all these guys just get fucked up. And, you know, it kind of happens in darkness. You don't get any real blood or gore here, but you see the weapons go in. You know these guys are fucking dead. And Blake, you know what I just thought about the ship that's kind of out in the water? You know what it kind of makes me think of? Is the first Pirates of the Caribbean. How that movie had some creepiness to it, the first Pirates of the Caribbean. The rest of them I don't give a fuck about. But the first one, there was a little bit of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I feel like that movie was really, really good. It had a whole lot of elements to it, but then they just kind of screwed up the franchise, which I'm not surprised. That's just kind of how that goes, you know? It's cash cow. But, so, at the same time, you've got Nick Castle, our good buddy Tom Atkins, T.A., who, by the way, I recently saw at a horror convention in Columbus, and he was belligerent. I don't know if he was drunk or what his deal was, but he was cracking me up. He's like, "What's your name?" And I'm like, "Travis." He's like, "Travis?" I'm like, "All right, fuck." He's just yelling and shit. I'm like, "All right, it's Sunday. I guess you're just fucking done with it." Anyway, he was cracking me up. But I had met him before and got a Night of the Creeps poster, or Night of the Creeps print signed by him. And that, or Night, you know, that was Night of the Creeps mini poster. That was like 2011. So we're talking like 6 years later. And T.A.'s still doing the circuit. He's old now, man, but I love T.A.
It's just great that he was belligerent. I want to get that way the next one that I do. People walk up and they'll be like, "What's your name?" And they're like, "My name's Tim." "Tim?"
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck he was yelling about. He was like yelling at people. Like, he yelled so loud that we turned around. I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like, he has
a DMX and like, "Hey, yo, bitch." He's got the fucking,
he does. He wasn't that way the first time I met him. He was like soft spoken. He was nice, and this time he's like, "What?" I'm like, "All right, fuck. What's the deal?"
It's beautiful.
He's just yelling about shit. And you know what he's missing in this movie? The trademark Tom Atkins mustache. We have no mustache for Tom Atkins in this. And the only other one I can think of that he doesn't have a mustache is Creepshow.
Yeah, that's true. But he's very belligerent and an asshole in Creepshow. So.
Yes, he was. He was a dickhead. In fact, Blake, and I hate to say this, okay, buddy, I do when I watch Creepshow, I think of your asshole stepdad. That's what I think of now.
You know, that makes me feel good that you remember things about how I grew up.
I do.
And you remember
And you haven't talked about it much in a while, so that says something.
Yeah, I just, that's what I thought of, because that was very much how it was. Just add an assload of booze and some